All right, so now that we have our histogram, we want to be able to approximate or estimate the mean, median, mode, and range of the data just from the histogram and the frequency table. We're going to imagine that we don't know what all that data was originally, and this is all we're given. Okay, so first of all, I've circled this 14 because that actually is going to help us get our mode. The mode in this case is going to occur in the class where the pH is between 7 and 8. Okay, now, so what do we say that is? Well, we would say that the mode is approximately 7.5. All right, when you have these classes and you're asked for a specific value, you just use the middle of that class. Okay, now we also have the range. So the range is the distance between the highest and lowest value. So our lowest one is 5. The highest value in our range goes up to 9. So we would say that the range is 9 minus 5, or it is approximately 9 minus 5. Okay, so that would be 4. All right, so that's going to be our approximate range. The median we can also find relatively quickly here. The median, is the middle score. If we add these all up, we do have the 30 scores. So we know it's going to be between the 15th and 16th scores. All right, well, if we start at the bottom, we have 1, 2, and then 8 more. That takes us up to 10. And then there's 14 in this range here. So if you wanted to look on your histogram, we have 2 here. Let me use a different color so we can see it a little better. We have 2 here. We have 8 here. And then we need the 15th and the 16th. So we have 10, 12, 14. Here's the 15th, and the 16th would be there and there. Okay, well, both of those have a value in this class between 7 and 8. So we would say that our median is going to be the average of those, or it is also going to be in the class between 7 and 8. So we would say that the median is approximately 7.5 as well. Okay, just like the mode, we take the middle of that value. Okay, so then the last one, the mean. Again, if we had all of the data, then we could just say that the mean was 7.3. If you added up all that data, the actual mean equals 7.3. But how would we approximate it if we didn't know all the data at the beginning? We just had this. So what we would do is similar to what we did when we had the dot plot. We're going to take the score and multiply it by how many of those we have. All right. The difference in this case, though, is that the scores we're going to use are going to be these half values. So we're going to use 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, and 8.5. All right. So 5.5, there were 2 in that class. So it's going to be 5.5 times 2. Plus 6.5 is the middle of the next class. And there are 8 of those. Okay. Then we're going to add 7.5 times the 14 in that class. And then we'll move this over real quick here. And then we're going to add the last class. We have, since we went from 8 to 9, we're doing 8.5 times 6. Okay? And of course, we're going to divide that then by how many total there were. So again, we add those up, and there were a total of 30 different samples for this. So now we need to actually do the multiplication. Move this down. So 5.5 times 2 is 11, plus 6.5 times 8 is going to be 52, plus 7.5 times 14, that's going to be, let's see, 49, 98, plus another 7, so that's going to be 105, plus 8.5 times 6 is going to be 51. We're dividing that by 30. Okay, so when we do the addition on the top, we come up with 219. 219 divided by 30 just happens to come out to exactly 7.3. So you can see this actually can be a very relatively accurate way of approximating the mean. In this case, it actually came out to the actual mean. It's not always going to come out at quite that pretty, but this time it did. All right, so at this point, if you are working online, I have these problems in a Google form, and you can fill that out and submit your answers there. But you have all the questions right here. If you're having to work on paper, you can do your work on a separate sheet to solve these. Here you have a dot plot, and you're telling some things about it. Reading it, I already constructed it for you, but you have to read it and tell some things about it. And then the same with the histogram. And I remind you down here on number 10, using the middle of each interval. And I told you here to use 45, 55, 65, 75, 85. You'll find the mean. Okay. So it actually wants you to do the comparison. I gave you all the original data, so I want you to find the mean that way. And then I want you to find it using the frequency table, and then I want you to compare those two, see what you think. Okay. So again, you can either submit this on the Google form or do your work on paper and then submit it in the assignment on eClass.